How are things, Elizabeth? Good. You're looking good, Chris. Yes? What time of year is this? What time? Jenny? Springtime. What happens in the springtime? What happens, Katie? The buds get on the tree. What else, Susan? The snow melts. Whatever snow there's left melts come the springtime. Turns into water. And where does the water go? Where, Jenny? Yeah, some of it goes into streams, some of it goes into the ground and remains under the ground. And then all we have to do is turn on a faucet and it just jumps right up out of the river and out of the streams and into the faucet, doesn't it? No?
No.
No. Lots of things have to happen to it, right, before it gets to the faucet. Sometimes I like water so much I think it'd be a good thing to turn on the faucet and just let the water run out and run and run and run and run all day long. Would that be a good idea?
No.
Why not? Matthew, do you know why? Why?
The house would get flooded.
House might get flooded. What else, Robert? How about saving water? Do you think water is important enough for us to use when we need it and not just let it run all day long? Right, Laura? Because if you waste water, goodness, we don't have all the water that we'll ever need. We have to be able to put water back in the ground and take care of it and use it only as we need to use it. You know what I did this morning? I had a very good breakfast. I had... So tell me this. Is this a good breakfast? If I had English muffin and I had toast and I had a Danish and I had French toast, would that be a good breakfast?
Yeah.
Well, all of those things are good. I have to admit that. But do you think all of them in one day and one breakfast are good? No, because I didn't do what? What do you call it when you eat several different food groups? Did you ever hear anybody say balanced breakfast? Yeah. So it's a good thing to have something like either English muffin or toast or French toast, because they're all in the same food group. If I had had some juice in there, maybe an egg or something, that would have been balanced on the scale. You know what else I did after I had breakfast? I took care of my body by brushing my teeth. You know about that, don't you? Sure. You knew all about that a long time ago. When you were little kids, you learned about how important it is to brush your teeth. Well, take care of yourself in lots of ways. And then we got in the automobile and we went for a drive. But you know what? We were running out of fuel. What kind of fuel do you put in an automobile usually? What kind, Robert? Gasoline. Where do you get it? Where, Laura? At the gas station. And does he give it to you for free?
No.
You have to pay for it. You know what happened to a friend of mine? See, gasoline is is like food is to us. Gasoline is to the motor in the car. It's the fuel that the motor uses for energy, and it turns the wheels and makes the car go. And the good breakfast that we eat in the morning and lunch and dinner, that's our fuel. And our bodies take that fuel, and they use it to make us go. And a friend of mine once said, I'm not going to go to the gas station anymore because I'm tired of paying the man for gasoline. So he pulled up alongside the road, and he put sand in his gas tank. See, the sand was free, and he thought, well, I won't have to pay for gasoline. What do you think happened? What happened, Laura? No, because sand isn't good for the motor car. It's not fuel. No, you got to be careful what you put in your gas tank for the car to go. Oh, you got to do the same thing with yourself, right? There are only certain things that are good for us. There are certain other things that we could take that wouldn't be good for us, right? Elizabeth? A soup is pretty good, don't you think?
Soap.
Soap. There's a difference between soup and soap, isn't there? Which tastes better, soup or soap?
Soup.
Soup. Yeah. Well, there are lots of things that we shouldn't put in our body because they're not good for us. Who's in charge of our body? Who, Jenny? Yourself. Yeah. Suppose somebody came along and said to you, I've got something really good for you. You ought to try it. Do you just say, oh, okay, and try it?
No.
No. You think about it a little bit. You make your own decision, because who's in charge of our body? Ourselves, that's right. Well, that's a big job, taking care of ourselves, making sure that we eat the right kinds of things and making sure we don't eat any of the wrong kinds of things, right? Yeah. Of course, you know, one nice thing about being a human being, who's a human being here? Are you a human being? Yeah? Okay. Chris, you a human being too? Okay. Nice thing about being a human being is that you can remember things. Like you can remember what's right for our bodies and what's wrong for our bodies. And you can decide, because you're in charge of you. Tell me something. How many of you, when you grow up, would like to drive an automobile? Do you think you'll be able to drive an automobile when you grow up? What's the first thing you do when you get in an automobile, Katie? Put on your seatbelt, right. Before putting in the key or starting it up, we put on our seatbelt. See, you're a human being, so you can remember things that are good for you, good to do. What's something else? Like, for example, I'm driving down the street in my automobile, and I see a green light, and I stop. No? What's the matter? Shouldn't I stop?
No.
Why? What do I do?
Keep going.
Right. Suppose I saw a red light. What would I do? See, you remember so many of the rules already. That's because you're a human being. You know the things that are good for you and the things that are not good for you. How about your dog or cat? Do you think they could remember those things? I don't think we'd find them driving an automobile, would we? No. Yes, because you're a human being and you're able to remember those things, you'll someday be able to drive an automobile, because you'll remember all the things that are good, all the things that are not good. Who's in charge of yourself? Who? You, that's right. Even when you're driving an automobile. Did you know that sometimes there are things that we do that mean that we can't do other things very, very well? Did you ever hear about kids and even grown-ups sometimes drinking alcohol and drinking too much of it and then driving in an automobile? When we do certain things, like when we have alcohol and we shouldn't have alcohol, and then we do things that we shouldn't do, it affects us in certain ways. It means that we can't, well, maybe we didn't see the stop sign as well as we should have seen it. And so we don't do the right things at those times. So that's not a good thing to do, is it? Now, when you grow up and you drive a car, do you think you'll do anything like that? Well, what makes you so different? Now, I'll bet you those boys and girls, when they were your age, when they were in the first grade, I'll bet they said the same thing. What happens? Did they forget something? They forgot who's in charge, I think, right? Yeah. They forgot something that's most important in our lives. Who's in charge? Who's in charge of you, Robert? You are. That's right. Laura, who's in charge of you? Christine? You're in charge of Christine? Susan, are you in charge of Christine? Who are you in charge of? Susan, you're right. How about you, Katie? You in charge of Annette? No? Who are you in charge of? Annette, are you in charge of your brothers? You're in charge of Annette, right? You're in charge of yourself. Matthew D., you're in charge of you. Hey, I'm your friend, aren't I?
Yeah.
Am I a good friend?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've always had fun together on television.
Yeah.
And you think of me as a good friend. Suppose I reached into my pocket and I said, I have something here that'll make you feel really good. Why don't you take it? Why don't you have it? What would you say? What do you mean, no?
Yes.
I'm your friend.
Yeah, but
No, I don't think so. That's right, Jenny. That's right. Sometimes people that you think are your friends are not really your friends. Suppose I said to you, don't have a good breakfast tomorrow morning. Would I be your friend? Because I'd be telling you something that was wrong for you. But who's in charge of you? That's right. So even though maybe you thought I was your friend, and I had been pretty good to you in the past, if I told you something that wasn't good for you, I wouldn't be your friend. And besides which, am I in charge of you?
no.
Oh, no? How about the teacher? Is the teacher in charge of you?
No.
Who's in charge of you?
Yeah.
That's right.